What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Regina Young Knows iBoys Resource Center. So I know these videos go pretty quickly. This is part one. The question is, who's at fault for United States having all these problems with the coronavirus? Is it Donald Trump? A lot of people are saying that Donald Trump is at fault. I'm watching PBS NewsHour, an episode for April the 13th, and they're pretty much, if you listen to it, they're saying Donald Trump is at fault. Listen to what they're saying.
Warnings that the president got, and how did he respond to those?
Well, I mean, the president's National Security Council, there were members of the National Security Council that in January were quite concerned about what was going on in China, and were worried that it was just a matter of time before the pandemic would be in the United States. And the Health and Human Services Secretary Azar spoke with the president in January as well to express his concern about the fact that this was almost assuredly coming to the United States and was going to be a public health emergency here. The president told him to, calm down, that he was, too worried about it. And repeatedly in that period, while it's true that the president did limit, travel by Chinese citizens to the United States in late January, there were among many of his aides, there was a belief that the United States needed to be preparing for the next stage of mitigation, and it took weeks too long to get to that point.
On January the 22nd.
So basically, if you are listening, pretty much this guy is on here talking, how he talks like people have a right to be mad with Donald Trump over the fact that he didn't do anything. It was like he was saying pipe down, like he brushed it off, like he didn't care, like he didn't take it serious. And how they talk, like Donald Trump knew about this in the middle or the beginning of January. And he didn't want everybody to know because he didn't want to panic. And he made a comment about if 15 people had it and how all suddenly it would go away and everything was going to be fine. But this lady and this guy that's on here talking now, they're telling people, hey, election is coming again. Y'all need to think about this. Do you want to elect someone back into office that possibly puts your life at risk? Because basically that's what's happened. Everybody in the United States is at risk. Even though he did stop China from having people come over here, that was just one step. They been knew about it. It's funny to me how they played with people's lives, and so many people died over this. They didn't have to die. People lost their loved ones. People lost family. People died alone. People died without being able to say goodbye to their loved ones because their loved ones couldn't visit them or see them. And who's at fault? Like, seriously, who's at fault? Who do you blame for this?
In an interview with CNBC, President Trump was asked about a pandemic and whether there were worries about it. Here's what he said.
We have it totally under control. It's one person coming in from China, and we have it under control.
So what did we know about the coronavirus at that point
Okay, that was January 22nd, which is the end of January, and Donald Trump was telling people that we had it all under control. So why is it that now we're in April the 15th to be exact, and New York is saying that people are steady dying, that they have freezers behind buildings where they're putting dead people in because they died from coronavirus. So I'm a little confused. How do we have it under control? And who gave whoever the right to not tell the American people about this virus so they could prepare themselves way back in January when everybody else knew that we're big timers, like the president and the WHO? Who gave them the idea that they had the right to keep this a secret from citizens, the community? And now it's like everybody's going chaotic. People are fighting and getting drunk and don't know what to do. Bills are behind. People are killing their loved ones. Like, this man killed his wife because he thought he had coronavirus and he killed her. I know what you're saying. Well, that was his stupidity. Well, the things that you hear about the coronavirus, you hear that a lot of people are dying. So that's why he probably did it. I mean, he had no right to take her life, but it's just ridiculous how this was a secret for so long, and here we are in April, and everybody's missing out on everything where things could have been different. Yes, we can't go back, we can't change it, but come on, y'all knew about it in January, and you didn't say nothing. Now, I have 3 special need kids. My son had heart surgery. This is something that I would want to know about. So, am I mad? Yes, to a extent, because I feel like you blindsided a lot of people when you're saying you're going to make the choice when the United States reopen, but you couldn't make the choice to tell people what was really going on.
Late January. What did people know in the administration?
They knew that it was already here in the United States. They knew that it was just a matter of time before it started to spread widely in the United States, and that while containment was still important to try to do contact tracing to limit the spread, that they needed to be preparing for widespread illnesses. That was evident to any public health expert at that point.
So why didn't they tell the people?
That I want to play for the audience, because on February the 25th, Dr. Nancy Messonnier with the Centers for Disease Control, she's the director of the National Center for Immunization and Respiratory Diseases, she had a briefing call with news reporters in which she issued a warning. Here's that.
Some of these measures might include missed work and loss of income. I understand this whole situation may seem overwhelming and that disruption to everyday life may be severe, but these are things that people need to start thinking about now.
Just one day later, President Trump said this.
And again, when you have 15 people, and the 15 within a couple of days is going to be down to close to 0, that's a pretty good job we've done.
So, Eric, why was that a key moment in the administration's response?
Now, arguably, that was one of the most essential moments in the whole saga as we look back on history, because that was the moment when there had been a consensus among his medical advisors that the United States needed to announce that we needed to move to social distancing, that's in hot spots in particular, and the president was unprepared and unready to do that. And in fact, he lashed out at the Health and Human Services Secretary Azar after Nancy Messonnier made that statement while he was in India on his way home. So,
okay, so this is in February. From what they're saying, if you listen to this and they're playing evidence, Donald Trump knew about this for quite some time, and he didn't care because he didn't want to do the things that they're telling him to do. He didn't want to shut down the states. He didn't want to do the distant. He didn't want to do any of this. So they waited until March the 16th to say, hey, yeah, a lot of people are dying, so let's try this. Well, don't you think you should have tried that a long time ago? Like, people, I kid you not, this is why you need to vote. You need to vote. And you need to think about who you vote for. Because a lot of this could have been prevented had we American people knew what to do to prevent and protect ourselves.
What Trump did instead was to wait 3 weeks before he embraced the need for social distancing. And the net result was that there are many more illnesses and deaths in the United States.
So we are now in, Eric, in what is called mitigation. These widespread closures, all about enforcing social distancing. President Trump announced the first social distancing initiative, 15 days to stop the spread, he called it, and that was on March the 16th. But how early was this first proposed to the president as a solution, and what is known about why he waited to adopt it?
It was a month prior to that there essentially a consensus was forming among medical experts in the United States government that we now needed to move to mitigation. And the thing is that it's almost down to a science. Once you have the first death from a contagious disease like this, or you have a certain percentage of people who have the illness, you have a window of about 1 week to 2 weeks to take significant mitigation steps. If you don't do it, it's like waiting for a house fire to get from being, on the stove in the kitchen to the roof is burning and the structural elements of the house are on fire, and then you call the fire department. We waited until the roof was burning and the structure was on fire in New York State, in New York City, before we called the fire department. And that was a decision that the president made, was to not move ahead with those announcements. And now, again, it's the governor's choices as to when to do that, but it's the federal government's role to play a leadership and to help the governors make those choices by letting them know what the public health officials think is needed.
So is Donald Trump at fault or is it the governors at fault? Because in every state you have a governor. Who's at fault? You tell me, who do y'all think is at fault? Who is responsible for this coronavirus spreading as fast as it did? And there was so many things they could have did that could prevent a lot of people lives, meaning a lot of people might have still been here today. Who's at fault?